Hi, I want to do another instructional video on accessorizing, customizing, upgrading the WE66. This is the new top of the line model in the solid base series, the WE60 series. It has the dual cam vise. We are going to add a riser block to it to raise the vise line relative to the guide rods to make stone use more efficient. We're going to also install the pivot keepers. I didn't say with the WE60, but I want to go back and say anything that you do to your vise to add a riser block to make your vise taller, whether it's on the Gen 4 Pro that we just did earlier, the WE66 that we're doing here, the WE60 we did earlier. If we add a riser block to raise the vise, we need to most probably work with longer guide rods. You'll have to get longer accessory guide rods to take advantage of the height enhancement gained with the riser block. That all said, we're going to start by removing the handle simply to get it out of the way. That's 1/8 inch when I can find it. There we go. And we'll take off the handle. This handle has been customized like all my handles. I prefer my handles to rotate left to right. There comes a knob on there that catches so that these handles, as from the factory, they're only made to go in the right direction and they lock out here. I do remove that with the saw and a file because I prefer my handles to rotate as I place them. Okay, so we're going to remove the handle to get it out of here. We're going to start with the pivot keepers. They're real easy to install. You just have to loosen the knob and the big loop will stretch over that knob and it will grab back into place. It'll stretch back into place. If you don't get crazy with it, you won't tear it. It'll be fine. I stretched it over the screw and then it'll fit right in and hold the pivot race in place. Then the pivot keeper allows us to do without those little white balls that hold that pivot race in place. So I'm going to put the other pivot keeper on there. Again, it fits in right like this, so I just stretched it over the top of the screw and insert that down between the tightening screw and the pivot race, and then that'll stay right in place so I don't have to worry about losing the little white plastic balls that keep the pivot keepers and keep the pivot race in place. I did that first because I am going to lift this up and take it loose. I do have to take a wrench to the nuts here. Let me see if I can get that loose again. I try to do these videos live, real time, so that you know exactly what amount of effort is involved with doing this. This WE66 is drilled through this aluminum base that I got from Wicked Edge, and it has a nut on the bottom. So that's what I'm doing now is I'm taking it loose. I put the pivot keepers in first because when I turn it over, I don't want them to fall out. I don't want to have to worry about those little balls getting lost. I've already lost some. That's why we devised those pivot keepers, to keep from losing those little white balls and more importantly, that pivot race that is mandatory, absolutely necessary. That pivot race is necessary in order to use the ball end guide rods with the WE60 and the WE66. So you don't want to lose that pivot race. Okay, I loosened this up. I took it loose. From the bottom, there are 2 screws that hold the dual cam vise in place. Like the Gen 4 Pro that we did earlier, we're going to remove these 2 screws alternatingly to try to keep them even, because that Belleville washer stack is in here compressed, and we want to back off the screws evenly to release the compression evenly so that this doesn't get cattywampus and then it gets jammed and you can't pull it apart. So it's better, I have found, to release these screws evenly back and forth and keep it straight. So I'm with a Phillips screwdriver. The originals from Wicked Edge, they may be hex screws. I don't remember. I've taken these things apart and modified them, and I may have eliminated the hex screws that may have come from Wicked Edge and converted those over to Phillips screws. I don't remember. I've had these things, like I said, over the years, so many in and out and apart that I don't necessarily remember all the screw details. Okay, the second screw is totally loose. I'm going to take that out and I'm going to turn it up this way, right side up, and lift the dual cam vise off the top. You can see the pins of the dual cam vise where it interfaces with the brass piston. And here is the brass piston, and that is where the cam interfaces with it. Now the Belleville washers are in a can down inside. Now with it turned upside down, I'm pushing the can out. The can has come out, and now the can I'm holding in my hand. This can, like the dual cam vise on the the Gen 4 Pro that we did earlier, we're going to look at it again, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a half and a half. It is 6 pairs. The bottom is cupped down. Then we have cup to cup for 5, cup to cup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pairs cup to cup. And then the top one is a single, and that is up. So the top one is up, the bottom one is down, and everything is paired in between. So we have the bottom one cupped down, that full pair, and the top one goes the other way. We're putting all the pairs together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last cupped pair goes together, and there's one more washer in here. So we have a total of 6 pairs of washers, and that sets in there like that. That is now taken and put into one of Doug's riser blocks that he designed, and then the can fits right down into there. The dual cam vise aligns You can see there's a big slot and a small slot. It aligns with the small slot. And then we're going to put it together. And set it into the slot in the base. That base is slotted, it sets right into there. While I'm holding everything lined up, then I'm going to come over here, and these are 2.5 inch long screws. They insert up through the bottom, through the base, through the riser block, and then screw into the dual cam vise. And I am balancing all this because I'm trying to keep everything lined up and together. And then I got to get the screw started and come to the other side and get the screw started. And it's a little tedious to get everything started. These are Phillips screws. And there I have it started. The other side I have it started. And then like on the Gen 4 Pro, we're going to work the tightening back and forth. We're going to start on one side and then go to the other side to keep it even, because we want to compress those Belleville washers flat in place and not at an angle. So now I got the second one is starting to draw up. And then I'm going to go back to the first one. And now the first one is getting tight, and I'm going to go back to the second one, and we're going to keep working back and forth, just tighten a little bit at a time, looking at the gaps here as we tighten to try to keep them closing up evenly. And then at the end it will get real tight, and you will have to lean on it and drive those screws in as you tighten them. Again, they are Phillips head screws, and I'm tightening it a little bit more. The gap is getting tighter. It does take some effort because I am compressing the Belleville washers, the riser block, the wicket at dual cam vise, and everything together in one tight piece, because you don't want this coming out. This is going to go together and you're going to be done with it, and you're not going to look at this again. So you want these screws to be positioned, tightened, flat, tight, no wobble to it. And now this is in place, and now the vise is working as it's supposed to. It's just taller. Okay, now from that point, we're going to be able to reinstall this. We have the pivot keepers, the riser block, and now we're going to remount this vise onto our base, and that's it. It's that simple. It only takes, we're 13 minutes into this video with my big mouth and my talking, so it really only takes about 5 minutes. And let me see. I'll throw the nuts on there. These screws are pretty short because you don't have a lot of room for them to stick out the bottom, because the gap between this base with these bumpers and the table that you're going to use it on is very close. So you don't have a lot of room hanging down from the bottom, only about the thickness of these nuts that we're using. There we go, that one started, and the next one I'll get going, and then we're going to tighten it with a wrench, and then we're done. So the whole deal is about a 15-20 minute conversion, and the reason for that is when we use a taller vise, our stones stand the same height as the vise. Then as we raise the stone, we're able to use more of the stone across the blade. So the riser block is for efficiency, and we have the pivot keepers to keep those pivot races from falling out. And that's how we install the riser block and the pivot keepers on the WE66 sharpener. Thank you.